A Tale of Magic, Chapter 8. The Boy of Fire and the Girl of Emeralds. As the unicorns drew the golden carriage away from Chariot Hills, Bristol couldn't help but smile from ear to ear. Life had been a living nightmare in recent weeks, but by some miraculous twist of fate, the day had turned into a dream come true. Not only was it the most confusing and surprising day of her life, but thanks to her mother, it was the first day of an entirely new life. Signing the form was the most profound thing anyone had ever done for her, and Bristol hoped she could return the favor to help her mother escape the Southern Kingdom someday. Mrs. Evergreen had asked her daughter to leave and never come back, but Bristol couldn't wrap her head around it. She didn't have many fond memories of her family's home, so it would be easy to keep her distance. But until this moment, Bristol had never been able to choose her whereabouts. The Evergreen House, the school for future wives and mothers, the courthouse, and the Bootstrap Correctional Facility were all places she had been forced to go. And now that Bristol was officially under Madam Weatherbury's supervision, she never had to return to those terrible places again. The newfound freedom was an exhilarating sensation and made Bristol's big smile grow even wider. "Has anyone ever told you what a lovely smile you have?" Madam Weatherbury asked. "Not that I recall," Bristol said. "Then again, I haven't had many things to smile about." "I hope that changes once we get to the academy," Madam Weatherbury said. "I can't wait to see it," Bristol said. "How much longer until we get there?" "We still have one student to pick up in the Southern Kingdom, and then another one in the in-between after that," Madam Weatherbury said. "With any luck, they'll be easy recruits, and will arrive by tomorrow evening. I can't imagine how exhausted you must be after a day like today, so please feel free to get some rest." An enormous yawn escaped Bristol's mouth and confirmed Madam Weatherbury's hunch. Bristol stretched out across the satin cushions and became so comfortable she was asleep within seconds. Overnight, the golden carriage traveled into the northwest foothills of the Southern Kingdom. Bristol awoke the following morning more awake than she had felt in months. Instead of colorful fruit, the vines on the carriage ceilings grew muffins, bagels, and other breakfast pastries. "Good morning, Madam Weatherbury," Bristol said, and helped herself to a muffin. "Did you sleep well?" It appeared Madam Weatherbury hadn't moved since Bristol went to sleep. She was looking over the map of magic and was so captivated by it she didn't respond. "Madam, is everything all right?" Bristol asked. Madam Weatherbury didn't look up from the map. "How peculiar," she said. What's peculiar?" Bristol asked. "Oh, forgive my concentration, dear," Madam Weatherbury said. "I'm a little concerned about the potential student we're traveling to. He changed locations twice since last night and seems to be heading to a third." Madam Weatherbury turned the map of magic around so Bristol could see what she was referring to. In the northwest corner of the Southern Kingdom, a bright star moving over ever so slightly toward the border of the in-between. The name beside the star was Xanthus Hayfield. "What do you think that means?" Bristol asked. "Well, it simply means he's on the move," Madam Weatherbury said. "But I'm worried about what he's moving from. We should try to reach him before he crosses the border." Madam Weatherbury snapped her fingers, and the unicorn started galloping even faster. The rolling land and oak trees of the northwest foothills zoomed past Bristol's window so quickly she couldn't even see them. Madam Weatherbury kept a close eye on the on the map of magic as her and Bristol's stars approached the young man's star. Suddenly, the air outside was hazy, and the carriage filled with the smell of smoke. Madam Weatherberry snapped her fingers again, and the unicorn slowed to a normal pace. She and Bristol looked out their windows and saw that the land was scorched for acres around them. Many of the trees and bushes were still ablaze, like the area had been hit by a recent wildfire. The debris continued for miles down the path, and then, strangely, the damage ended at a large wooden barn. The barn was a blazing inferno with flames stretching well above its crumbling roof. It was as if the wildfire had paused to take a rest inside before moving on. Now we know what he was running away from, Bristol said. Do you think he escaped the fire? Madam Weatherberry squinted as she inspected the burning barn. No, I think he is the fire, she said. Bristol, stay in the carriage. Things may get heated if we overwhelm him. May get heated? Bristol asked. The golden carriage stopped a safe distance away from the burning barn. Madam Weatherberry climbed out and approached the barn while Bristol watched from the carriage. The fairy moved her hands in big circles through the air, summoning a sudden rainstorm that extinguished all the flames. Once the fire was out, all that remained of the structure was its chaired framing and support beams. To Bristol's amazement, a boy about 11 years old was sleeping on the ashy ground inside the barn. He had golden hair and fair skin, and his clothes had been significantly singed in the fire. Although his clothing was damaged, there wasn't a single burn mark or scratch on his entire body. Hello, Xanthus, Madam Weatherberry called to him. The boy awoke with a fright. He was startled to see Madam Weatherberry walking toward him and quickly hid behind a burned beam. Bristol gasped when flames appeared on his head and shoulders. Madam Weatherberry was right. Xanthus wasn't running from the fire. He was creating it. Stay where you are, he said. Don't come any closer. Madam Weatherberry gave the boy a warm smile but didn't stop her approach. Don't worry, sweetheart, she said. I'm not going to hurt you. No, but I might hurt you, Xanthus warned. Stay away from me or you'll get burned. With every step Madam Weatherberry took, Xanthus became more and more anxious. The fire on his head and shoulders flickered with more intensity, and the flames traveled down his arms and torso. Lady, I mean it, he yelled. I can't control it. You're putting yourself in danger. Xanthus, you have nothing to fear, she said. My name is Madam Weatherberry, and I promise you aren't going to hurt me. I'm just like you. Just like me? He asked in disbelief. Look, I don't know what you're doing here, but there's no way you're like me. Please turn around before you get burned. To prove him wrong, Madam Weatherberry raised her arms above her head, and her body was suddenly engulfed in bright violet flames. Bristol and Xanthus couldn't believe their eyes, and both their mouths dropped open. The boy's state of shock temporarily extinguished the fire on his own body. Once Madam Weatherberry thought her point was achieved, she lowered her arms, and the violet flames vanished without leaving a blemish on her skin or clothing. I told you, she said. I'm magical just like you, and we can do all sorts of things that other people can't. Your fire is just the beginning. I'm magical? He asked. Of course you are, Madam Weatherberry said. Why else would you be able to produce fire from your skin? I thought I was cursed, he said. It's perfectly natural to feel scared and confused, Madam Weatherberry said. Magic is a very misunderstood concept in our world. I'm sure you've been told it's a loathsome and demonic practice, but that isn't true. It may not seem like it now, but you're actually blessed with a very powerful gift. Xanthus shook his head and backed away from her. You must be mistaken, he said. I'm not blessed with anything. I'm a walking disaster. I have to be stopped. And do you think crossing the border is going to help? Madame Weatherberry said. What are you talking about? Xanthus asked. I'm not headed to the border. Then where are you headed? She asked. I'm going to the Northwest Lake, he said. I'm going to strap boulders around my feet and drown myself before I've caused any more damage. After he confessed his plans, the boy fell to his knees and began to weep. But instead of crying tears, glowing embers sparked out of his eyes. Madame Weatherberry and Bristle were heartbroken to hear about Xanthus's intentions. The fairies knelt beside him and placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. My dear boy, she said, that's a bit extreme, don't you think? But it's the only way to stop it, he cried, and I don't want to hurt anyone else. What do you mean hurt anyone else? Madame Weatherberry said. Did something happen that made you run away from home? I don't have a home to run away from anymore, the boy cried. Why is that? Madame Weatherberry asked. Xanthus shook his head. I can't tell you, he said. You'll think I'm a monster. My dear, I have a very long history with magic, she said. I know how complicated an introduction can be. Even though magic comes from a good place within us, if we don't have control over our abilities, sometimes they cause unfortunate things to happen. So unless you intentionally caused harm, whatever happened was not your fault. Now please start from the beginning and tell me what's brought you here. Just like Bristol's first interaction with her, it didn't take long for Xanthus to sense Madame Weatherberry's kindness and realize she could be trusted. After he took a deep breath, the embers stopped sparking from his eyes, and he sat up to tell her what was causing him so much grief. I suppose I always knew this day was coming, Xanthus said. My mother died while giving birth to me. The doctor said my family, it was due to burns she received during the delivery, but he couldn't explain what caused them. My father must have known that it was my fault because he refused to hold me or give me a name. Eventually, the midwife called me Xanthus because of a warm yellow glow I was born with, but it faded after a couple days. Many of us are born with signs, Madame Weatherberry said. I'm sorry yours came at such a tragic loss. Me too, he said. As I got older, there were more signs. I always had a fever. I never needed a coat in the winter, and things would melt in my hands if I squeezed them too hard. About a year ago, everything got worse. There were sparks whenever I coughed or sneezed. There were flares when I was surprised or scared, and sometimes I'd have a nightmare and set my sheets on fire. But a few days ago, my father came home from the pub, and he started beating me. Because he discovered your magic? Madame Weatherberry said. No, it wasn't because of that, Xanthus said. My father has always hated me since my mother died. But a few nights ago, he caught me with something I shouldn't have had. Something he warned me to stay away from. The memory was clearly painful for Xanthus to relieve. More embers sparked out of his eyes, and the flames returned to his head and shoulders. You can spare any details you're not ready to share, Madame Weatherberry said. What happened after your father caught you? As he was hitting me, I became angry, really angry, Xanthus recalled. I felt all this heat building up inside me like I was a volcano. I knew something bad was about to happen, so I begged my father to stop and run away, but he wouldn't. The next thing I knew, there was fire everywhere. It came out like an explosion. Our house burned down to the ground. And my father, your father perished in the fire, Madam Weatherberry said, without having to ask. Zank rolled into his side and sobbed so hard his embers turned into 2 fiery streams. His entire body was consumed in powerful flames, and Bristol could feel the heat even from inside the carriage. Madam Weatherberry raised her hand and created a shield around the boy so his fire didn't spread. Once all his pent-up emotion was released, the flames died down and Xanthus returned to normal. I want you to listen to me very carefully, Madam Weatherberry said. What you've experienced is nothing short of tragic. But a tragic beginning doesn't mean you have to have a tragic ending. I know it feels like the end of the end of the world right now, but you are not as alone as you think you are. There is an entire community of people just like you who can help you through this trying time and teach you to control your abilities. I don't deserve to be helped, Xanthus said. I hurt everyone who gets too close. Madam Weatherberry reached toward the golden carriage, and the armrest across from Bristol opened on its own. A crystal medal with a ribbon rose out of the compartment, floated out the window, and flew into Madam Weatherberry's hand. Here, she said, and placed the ribbon around his neck. What is it? Xanthus asked. I call it a muter medal, Madam Weatherberry said. It stops the magical abilities of whoever wears it. I invented the medal myself, just in case I encountered a child like you. It doesn't matter how upset you get. As long as that medal is around your neck, your fire won't return. Xanthus didn't believe her. He scrunched his forehead as he tried to think of the most troubling thoughts as possible, but his skin remained perfectly normal. The boy even slapped himself across the face a couple of times, looking happier with every smack, because the flames never appeared. It works, Xanthus said. Of course it does, Madam Weatherberry said. Sometimes the biggest problems in life have the simplest answers. I hope this will save you a trip to the lake. Can I keep the muter medal? He asked with hopeful eyes. You will need it forever, Madam Weatherberry said. One day you'll learn to control your abilities on your own. How will I learn to control them? He asked. Because I'm going to teach you, he said. I'm starting my own school for children like you. I'm calling it Madam Weatherberry's Institution of Magical Arts, but the name is a bit of a mouthful, so I'll probably shorten it. King Champion has given me permission to recruit young fairies in the Southern Kingdom so I can teach them to develop their magical abilities. Fairies? Xanthus asked. Yes, that's the appropriate term for people like us, Madam Weatherberry exclaimed. Once my students are properly trained, we're going to travel the world and use our magic to help and heal people in need. Hopefully, with time, our selfless acts will be recognized, and the world will learn to accept us. Would you like to join our quest? You want me to join your school? Xanthus asked. But I just scorched 1,000 acres of land. Are you sure you want someone like me on campus? You're exactly the kind of student I'm looking for, she said. After what you've been through, you know how important it is to spread acceptance and awareness of magic. So no one has to repeat your experience. And together we can create a world where little boys never think jumping into lakes is the only way to fix their problems. Xanthus went quiet as he considered Madam Weatherberry's proposal. Bristol crossed her fingers in the carriage, hoping the boy would accept the offer. Well, since I'm not sinking to the bottom of a lake anymore, my schedule is pretty open, he said. If you're sure I won't be a problem, then I would love to join your school. Madam Weatherberry clapped in celebration. That's wonderful, dear, she said. I know you're going to be very happy there. Now, let's get you something a little more comfortable to wear for our journey. Madam Weatherberry trilled a finger, and thread by thread, Xanthus's burned clothes grew back into the brown pants and patchy vest he'd worn before his fire started. She escorted the boy to the golden carriage and helped him climb aboard. Xanthus was surprised to see Bristol waiting inside and became shy. Xanthus, I'd like you to meet your new classmate, Bristol Evergreen, Madam Weatherberry said. She is very powerful, just like you. Hello, Xanthus, she said. It's nice to meet you. Bristol tried to shake his hand, but Xanthus quickly dodged the gesture. I'm sorry, he said. It's nothing personal. I'm just used to burning things. After a moment, Xanthus cautiously shook Bristol's hand and was relieved when he didn't hurt her. Even though the meter metal suppressed his powers, Xanthus had a very warm touch. It's nice to meet you, Bristol, he said. Madam Weatherberry and Xanthus took their seats, and the carriage door closed behind them. The fairy retrieved the map of magic from the compartment under the armrest and double-checked the whereabouts of her third and final recruit. In the in-between. Once she confirmed the location, she snapped her fingers and the unicorns lunged forward, pulling the golden carriage in a new direction. Xanthus's eyes went wide as the northwest foothills raced past his window. This is unbelievable, he exclaimed. We must be going 100 miles an hour. Isn't it amazing, Bristol said. I've traveled across the kingdom with Madam Weatherberry, and my heart still flutters when I look out the window. How long have you known you were magic? He asked. It was a recent discovery, she said. But if it's any consolation, I understand what you're feeling. The second time I did magic, I was arrested and then locked away in a correctional facility. It's difficult to imagine good things can come from magic, too. But I look forward to Madam Weatherberry convincing us. Xanthus nodded sadly. It'll be a miracle if anything good come out of my magic. I bet you'll be surprised, Bristol said. You may think it's a curse now, but I know a few places that would be lucky to have a boy like you. Like where? He asked. The correctional facility I was sent to, for example, she explained. It was so cold at night, my friend would sneak me an extra blanket so I didn't freeze to death, and I would have given anything to be near one of your fires then. And I'm sure you would be a big help in the Northern Kingdom with all the trouble they've been having in the Northern Kingdom lately. Suddenly, Madam Weatherberry looked up from the map of magic and glared at Bristol like she had something controversial. What did you just say about the Northern Kingdom? She asked. Madam Weatherberry's intense reaction surprised Bristol. It was the first time she had seen the fairy without her trademark charm. I just said the Northern Kingdom could use a boy like Xanthus, Bristol said. Yes, but why? Madam Weatherberry pressed. What have you heard? Just that they've had blizzards, Bristol said. That's all. Once the subject was clarified, Madam Weatherberry's cheerful manner slowly returned, but a hint of aggression remained in her eyes. Oh yes, the blizzards, she said. I heard about those, too. Poor people. Let's hope the weather changes for them soon. Forgive me, Bristol, I misunderstood what you were saying. Madam Weatherberry, is there anything else happening in the Northern Kingdom that we should be worried about? Bristol asked. Nothing to trouble you with, my dear, she said. Just politics, as usual. It's all quite dull. Actually, forget I mentioned it. Out of respect, Bristol didn't inquire any further, but Madame Weatherberry's suspicious behavior made one thing abundantly clear. There was something about the Northern Kingdom she wasn't telling them. The golden carriage was quiet as it traveled south from the northwest foothills. Although she didn't say anything, Bristol's mind was racing with exciting thoughts about her future at the School for Magic. Xanthus was still in awe over how fast the carriage was moving and whipped his head from side to side to try to catch a glimpse of the blurry landscape outside. Madame Weatherberry mostly kept to herself, studying the map of magic in silence. At one point something strange seemed to catch her attention, and she stared at the map even more intently for a few minutes without looking up. "Madam," Bristol asked, is something wrong?" "Nothing's wrong," Madame Weatherberry said. "However, there is something very curious about our next recruit's location." "Are they moving too?" Bristol asked. "On the contrary," Madame Weatherberry said, "her whereabouts have remained exactly the same for as long as I've been aware of her. That should make her easy to find, but I'm interested in why she hasn't moved at all." "What's her name?" Bristol asked. "Emeralda Stone," Madame Weatherberry said. "Pretty, isn't it?" "I can't wait to meet her," Bristol said. "It'll be nice to know a girl I have something in common with." An hour or so into their journey from the northwest foothills, the unicorns made an abrupt right turn and began traveling west. Bristol wasn't expecting the change in direction and glanced down at the map in Madame Weatherberry's lap. "Are we going the right way?" Xanthus asked. "We're getting awfully close to the western border." "That's exactly where we're headed," Madame Weatherberry said. "Miss Stone lives a few miles west of the Southern Kingdom in the coal mines of the In-Between." The mention of the infamous territory between the kingdoms caught Xanthus's attention. He sat straight up in his seat and glanced at his companions with big, fearful eyes. "We're going into the In-Between?" Xanthus gasped. "But isn't it dangerous?" "Oh, it's more than dangerous," Madame Weatherberry said. "There are creatures living in the forests of the In-Between like humankind has only seen in nightmares. Food and water are limited, and the inhabitants are constantly fighting over resources. People are wise to keep their distance. That's why it's the perfect location for the academy." Xanthus' anxiety doubled. "The academy is in the in-between too?" he asked. "Yes," Madame Weatherberry said with a shrug. "Did I not mention it?" "I'm afraid you left out that detail," he said. "Well, fear not. You have me to protect you," Madame Weatherberry said with a prideful nod. "My academy is in a very secure area of the southeast In-Between, and the property is protected by a powerful magic." "What about the coal mines?" he asked. "Are they safe?" "We should be perfectly fine," Madame Weatherberry said. "The coal mines are only a few minutes' walk past the western border." Xanthus shook his head like his ears were deceiving him. "Did you say a few minutes' walk?" he asked in a panic. "We're getting out of the carriage?" "Of course we're walking," Madame Weatherberry said with a laugh. "4 unicorns in a golden carriage would only bring attention to ourselves. As long as we stay quiet and calm, everything will be fine." Xanthus gulped, unconvinced by the fairy's assessment. Bristol trusted Madame Weatherberry slightly more than he did, but her stomach tightened at the idea of entering the dangerous forest. Young women in the Southern Kingdom were rarely taught about worldly matters, but even they knew to avoid the in-between. The unicorns slowed down as they approached the western border. As Bristol and Xanthus anxiously looked out the window, there was no argument about where the Southern Kingdom ended and where the In-Between began. The horizon was consumed by a thick and monstrous forest. All the trees were gigantic. Their trunks were crooked, and their mangled branches stretched into the sky like the arms of prisoners reaching for freedom. As they moved closer, the carriage passed a sign that gave Bristol and Xanthus chills. Warning, you are entering the in-between zone. Beware of monsters. Did they have to paint the sign with such a creepy font? Xanthus asked. I mean, was that really necessary? The golden carriage pulled off the road and stopped at the edge of the forest. Madam Weatherberry happily hopped down from the carriage without a care in the world, and then forced Bristol and Xanthus out as well. Once all three passengers were outside, Madam Weatherberry snapped her fingers, and the large unicorns began to shrink. The majestic steeds were transformed into small field mice with horns and bushy magenta tails. The fairy snapped her fingers again, and the golden carriage shrunk to the size of a brooch, which Madam Weatherberry pinned to her gown. With a third and final snap, a large piece of cheese appeared on the ground for the mice to snack on. We should be back in an hour or so, Madam Weatherberry told the mice. Have a nice break and enjoy the cheese. Oh, and please watch out for owls. You remember what happened to Prancy. Bristol and Xanthus followed the fairy back to the road, and they continued into the in-between on foot. The path was so bumpy and narrow, a carriage wouldn't have managed. The tree branches filled the sky above them and blocked most of the sunlight, making it impossible to tell the time. The deeper they walked, the more jittery Bristol and Xanthus became. Madam Weatherberry was amused by their paranoia. They were halfway to the mine when two enormous creatures lunged at them from the dark forest. Bristol and Xanthus screamed and grabbed each other in terror as the figures stepped into the light. The travelers realized they had crossed paths with two ogres. The first ogre had brown skin, and his face was covered in bone piercings. The second ogre was green and covered in warts. Both creatures had an underbite with sharp teeth. Their clothes were made from fur and several dead animals, and they each carried a club carved from a log. Well, look what's wandered into the woods, the brown ogre sneered. You must have gotten lost if you were all the way out here, the green ogre growled. The ogres circled the travelers like wolves circling prey. Bristol and Xanthus were so scared they closed their eyes, but Madam Weatherberry never flinched. Actually, we're perfectly content, thank you, she said. It's very kind of you to check on us, though. Bristol, Xanthus, and the ogres were equally surprised by Madam Weatherberry's cheerful response. She proceeded down the road and pulled her students with her, but the ogres sprinted ahead and blocked the path with their clubs. You don't think you're getting away that easily, do you? The brown ogre asked. Fresh meat is hard to find around here, the green ogre said, and licked his lips. Madam Weatherberry eyed the creatures like they were disobedient children. Just so we're clear, you've interrupted our journey with the intention of eating us. Is that correct? And your obscene gestures and suggestive language are not meant to be interpreted as sarcasm. Is that right? The ogres shared a puzzled glance. They didn't understand all the words Madam Weatherberry was using. Of course we're going to eat you, the brown ogre roared. How wonderful, Madam Weatherberry cheered. Wonderful? Bristol exclaimed. Madam, how is this wonderful? We're about to be their lunch, Madam Xanthus cried. The ogres have just given me the perfect opportunity to teach a valuable lesson, Madam Weatherberry explained. As I've said before, magic comes from a place of love and joy within us. Its purpose is to stabilize, improve, and nourish. However, on the rare occasion when it can be justified, magic can also be used for self-defense. By admitting their intentions to harm us, these ogres have given us permission to—" "Madam Motherberry, look out!" Bristol screamed. The brown ogre raised his club high above his head and swung it in their direction. Without looking, Madam Motherberry snapped her fingers, and the club crumbled to the ground before it struck them. She whipped around and pointed both hands at the creatures. The ogres rose into the air and spun like cyclones, and the dead leaves covering the forest floor rolled around them. Madam Weatherberry dropped her hands, and the spinning stopped, but instead of ogres, 2 small turtles fell to the ground. "As I was saying," she continued, "by admitting their intentions to harm us, these ogres have given us permission to use our magic to stop them. And now that they have been transformed into small animals, they'll learn a much-needed lesson in humility. It's a win-win for everyone. Any questions?" Bristol and Xanthus were flabbergasted by what they had just witnessed. When the feeling finally returned to their bodies, Xanthus raised his hand. "Yes, Xanthus?" Madam Weatherberry asked. "Will you teach us how to do that?" he asked eagerly. "In time," she said with a smile. "Now let's move on." Madam Weatherberry led Bristol and Xanthus a few more miles into the in-between, and the road finally came to the entrance of an enormous coal mine at the base of a mountain. Bristol and Xanthus were amazed to see that the mine was operated entirely by dwarfs. The small miners pushed carts of coal out of the mountain and dumped the dark substance into a huge pile outside. Once the carts were emptied, the miners returned to the mine to fetch more, and the pile of coal was separated and boxed by packers. The workers were used to sing ferocious animals and dangerous creatures emerge from the forest around them. But as Madam Weatherberry, Bristol, and Xanthus walked out from the trees, they all froze and stared at their visitors in disbelief. The dwarfs guarding the entrance were so surprised they didn't even question the strange visitors as they strolled past them. "Good afternoon, gentlemen," Madam Weatherberry said with a friendly wave. "Keep up the good work." They entered a dark tunnel, and it took a few seconds for their eyes to adjust. The clanking of pickaxes grew louder and the farther they walked. Eventually, the tunnel brought them to a massive cavern where miners chiseled coal on multiple levels around them. In the center of the cavern, built on a cluster of stalagmites, was an observation deck where an older dwarf sat behind a miniature desk. He wore a suit and tie and squinted through a monocle as he studied blueprints of the mountain. "Excuse me, sir," Madam Weatherberry called to him. "Will you please point me in the direction of whoever is in charge?" The old dwarf looked up from the blueprints and was stunned to see that a woman and children had wandered into the mine. One by one, the miners throughout the cavern noticed their visitors and dropped their pickaxes to watch them. "That would be me, ma'am," the old dwarf said. "I'm Mr. Slate, the miner superior." "Pleased to meet you, Mr. Slate," she said. "My name is Madam Weatherberry, and these are my students, Bristol Evergreen and Xanthus Hayfield." "What brings you to the mine?" Mr. Slate asked. "I'm looking for a young woman named Emeralda Stone," Madam Weatherberry said. "Can you please tell me where she is?" All the dwarfs went quiet, and the cavern became very tense. Mr. Slate exchanged an uneasy glance with the miners around him. "I'm sorry, but there's no one here by that name," the dwarf said. "Are you certain?" Madam Weatherberry said. "Because according to my map, Miss Stone is somewhere within the mine. Perhaps she goes by another name?" "The map must have misled you then, because I assure you there is no young woman here," Mr. Slate said. "I'm sorry you came all this way for nothing. However, I'd be happy to offer you a discount on our coal so you don't leave empty-handed." Madame Weatherberry eyed the minor superior suspiciously. Mr. Slate, my map doesn't lie, she said. I know where there is a girl with magical abilities nearby, and if I discover you are harboring Miss Stone against her will, I will force to liberate her. Beads of sweat appeared on Mr. Slate's forehead. I just told you there's no young woman in this mine, she said. Now please leave before I have you removed. We don't want any trouble here. Madame Weatherberry turned to Bristol and Xanthus with an enthusiastic smile they weren't expecting to see. Our luck continues, she said happily. Mr. Slate has given me another opportunity to teach a valuable lesson. You see, when we have a reason to believe someone is in danger or being held hostage, magic can be used to rescue them. Watch this. With one flick of her wrist, all the miners throughout the cabin suddenly hit the floor like dominoes and fell into a deep sleep. Mr. Slate dived under his desk to avoid the spell, but Madame Weatherberry spared him. You horrible witch, Mr. Slate screamed. What have you done to them? I've halted your production and given your miners a rest, she explained. You will get your employees back as soon as you show us the girl. No, the dwarf yelled. I won't let you take her from us. Mr. Slate, please don't make this any more difficult than it needs to be, Madame Weatherberry said. I would enjoy turning your coal mine into a fertilizer plant, but I'm certainly not above it. She gave the dwarf no choice. Mr. Slate climbed down from the observation deck and begrudgingly guided the visitors to the back of the cavern. They followed him into a long tunnel that snaked even deeper into the mountain and ended at a small cave. Unlike the other parts of the mine, the sequestered cave sparkled like the night sky because the floor was covered in piles of diamonds, rubies, sapphires, and every other gem imaginable. In the back of the small cave was a girl of about 12, with bright green eyes, beautiful brown skin, and black curly hair. She wore a dress made from a burlap sack and sandals made from wood and rope. The girl stood behind a workbench that was illuminated by a jar of fireflies. Piece by piece, the girl selected coal from the cart beside her bench, closed her eyes, and concentrated as she squeezed it. When she opened her hand, the piece of coal had transformed into a colorful gem. She tossed it into a pile it belonged to. Bristol and Xanthus were mesmerized by her process, and they watched her for several moments before she noticed she had company. Who are you? She asked, wary of her unexpected guests. Hello, Emeralda. My name is Madame Weatherberry, the fairy said. It's so great to finally meet you. Madame Weatherberry approached the workbench to greet Emeralda with a handshake, but the girl didn't accept it. Instead, Emeralda folded her arms and looked Madame Weatherberry up and down with a dirty scowl. What are you doing in my cave? She asked. They're witches, and they demanded to see you, Mr. Slate said. I'm sorry, Em. They gave me no choice. Actually, we're not witches, Madame Weatherberry corrected him. We're fairies, and we're here to save you. Save me? Emeralda was offended by the notion. Papa, what's this woman talking about? What does she think she's saving me from? Papa? Madame Weatherberry was surprised to hear. Why does she call you Papa? Because I raised her, Mr. Slate said. We're not holding her hostage. This is her home. Her parents abandoned her when she was just an infant, and I found her crying in the woods. Of course, I didn't realize she was magical until I brought her back to the mine. My plan was to find her a nice human home, but then everything she got her hands on turned into jewels. So you decided to keep her and profit from her magic? Madame Weatherberry accused. No, to protect her, Mr. Slate exclaimed. Can you imagine what would happen if humankind found out she existed? Their greed has no bounds. Kings would go to war to get their hands on a child who can turn coal into diamonds. She'd never have a moment of peace until the day she died. Yes, we make a nice living off of Emeralda's creations, but at least she's safe with us. Bristol could tell Madame Weatherbury was embarrassed for misjudging the situation, because she paused for a few minutes before saying another word. "Mr. Slate, I apologize for the misunderstanding," she said, "but the mine isn't the only place she can be protected. In fact, there's only one place I know of that can guarantee her safety. That is, until she learns to protect herself." Madame Weatherbury leaned down so she could look into Emeralda's eyes. "I'm starting an academy of magic," she explained. "I'm going to teach young fairies like you to control and expand their abilities. I've traveled all this way because I'm hoping you'll want to join us." Emeralda raised an eyebrow at Madame Weatherbury like it was the dumbest idea she had ever heard. "Why would you start a school of magic?" she asked. "The world hates magic." "That's exactly why I'm starting it," Madame Weatherbury said. "After my students are properly trained, our plan is to travel around the world and use our magic to help people. Hopefully humankind will recognize our good deeds and learn to accept us. So little girls like you will never have to hide in caves again." Bristol and Xanthus watched Emeralda closely, hoping she would be intrigued by Madame Weatherbury's offer, but she remained just as defensive as before. "I'm not interested," she said. "Are you sure?" Madame Weatherbury asked. "This is a very big opportunity. Would you like some time to consider it?" "I don't need to consider anything," Emeralda snapped. "Why would I want to use my magic to help humankind? Like my papa just said, humankind is awful. All they do is make life difficult for other species." "Well, I won't argue with that," Madame Weatherbury said. "Humankind is a flawed race, but unfortunately, as long as they have the numbers and resources to stay in power, their acceptance of us is the key to our survival. If the magical community doesn't do something to improve our relationship with humanity, we risk extinction. Showing them kindness is the first step in changing their perception of us." "Humans don't deserve kindness," Emeralda said. "My parents were human and they left me to die when I was just a baby. What kind of monsters would do that to their own child?" "We all have our scars, Emeralda, but that doesn't mean we should give up." Madame Weatherbury slowly removed the glove covering her left arm, and everyone in the cave gasped. Bristol had never questioned why the fairy only wore one glove. But now it was obvious. Madame Weatherbury's left arm was skeletal, and her skin was pitch black from the tips of her fingers to the bottom of her shoulder, like it had been burned to the bone. It looked less like a human limb and more like the branch of a withering tree. "My family was human too, and when they discovered my magical abilities, they tried to burn me at the stake," she told them. "Luckily, there was a terrible storm that night, and the fire didn't last long. But I'll never forget the pain as long as I live, because my family's betrayal hurt far worse than the flames burning my skin." After the gruesome memory was shared, Madame Weatherbury slipped her charred arm back into her glove. "Why would you want to help people who did that to you?" Emeralda asked. "Because if we want a better world, we have to be better than the world," Madame Weatherbury said. "If we let one experience destroy our faith in an entire species, then we're no better than the people who hurt us. Just like in the magical community, there is good and evil in humanity, and now more than ever, they need to be reminded of the goodness in their hearts. Our pursuit of acceptance could be the example humankind needs to change its ways. It could inspire them to finally value their compassion over their hatred. We could create a new era where the world respects not just us, but those from all walks of life." Madam Weatherberry's passionate plea poked a few holes in Esmeralda's resistance, but it didn't tear it down. I guess I'm still valuing my hatred over the compassion, too, Esmeralda said. I'm sorry you came all this way, Madam Weatherberry, but I won't be attending your school. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a lot of work to do. Esmeralda returned to her workbench and continued transforming the coal into gems. Madam Weatherberry seemed extremely saddened by the girl's decision, but didn't press the issue any further. She headed out of the cave, gesturing for Bristol and Xanthus to follow her. We should get going, children, she said. I'm sure the unicorns are anxious for us to return. Although Madam Weatherberry had accepted Esmeralda's choice, Bristol thought the girl was making a horrible mistake and wasn't ready to give up on her. She went back to the workbench and stood in front of Esmeralda until the girl acknowledged her. Esmeralda rolled her eyes. Yes, she asked. I'm just curious. How do you decide which jewel to turn the coal into? She asked. Esmeralda sighed, like her method was too complex for Bristol to understand. I don't decide, she said. Each piece of coal is unique and has its own energy. All I do is find the jewel inside and bring it to the surface. Interesting, Bristol said. So you're doing to the coal exactly what Madam Weatherberry wants to do to us. Esmeralda scrunched her forehead. What are you talking about? She asked. Even if you disagree with Madam Weatherberry's reasons for opening the school, she's still offering us a chance to become the best versions of ourselves. I understand how you feel about humankind, but you aren't going to let them keep you from reaching your full potential, are you? Haven't they taken enough already? Clearly, Bristol's words resonated with Esmeralda more than Madam Weatherberry's had, because the girl dropped the coal and went deep into thought. Bristol turned to Madam Weatherberry, and the fairy beamed with gratitude for her assistance. The entire cave waited with bated breath for Esmeralda to make her decision. I appreciate what you're trying to do, but I can't leave the mine, Esmeralda said. The dwarves need me, and I belong with my... pack your things, Mr. Slate said. You're going to that school. Everyone in the cave turned to the dwarf. It was the last thing they had expected to hear coming out of his mouth. What did you just say, Papa? Esmeralda asked in shock. I said you're going to that school, Mr. Slate said. I'll admit I'm not convinced Madam Weatherberry's plan will work either, but the girl is right. This is an opportunity for you to become a better version of yourself, and I won't let you turn it down. No, Esmeralda exclaimed. The mine is my home. I'm happy here. Yes, but that won't always be the case, Mr. Slate said. Eventually you're going to grow up and want more out of life. You'll want to make friends and start a family. You'll want to have fun and fall in love, and you won't be able to do that in a mine surrounded by dwarfs. But you need me, she said. You just said you profit off my magic. We've benefited from you long enough, Mr. Slate said. But you're like a jewel yourself, Em. You won't do any good hiding out in the dark cave. It's time you shared your beauty with the world. Esmeralda tried to argue with her papa, but he wouldn't hear another word from her. Tears came to her eyes as she reluctantly put her belongings into a small bag. Once Esmeralda finished packing, Mr. Slate kissed his adopted daughter on the forehead and gave her a hug. I'm not happy about this, Esmeralda said, and I'm not saying goodbye, because this isn't goodbye. Right, Papa? No, my child, her papa said. This is just the beginning. Although they didn't live in the Southern Kingdom, Madam Weatherberry had Mr. Slate sign a permission form just to be safe. The miner's superior escorted everyone back to the main cavern, and Madam Weatherberry awoke the miners from their sleep. Esmeralda said farewell said farewell to the dwarfs, and each of them was more dismayed to see her go than the last, like they were all losing a child. Mr. Slate walked his adopted daughter and their guests to the entrance of the mine and waved them on their way. "All right, children," Madame Weatherbury said. "Let's go home."